Right?
33, and then we'll go 34. Or we cover 33.
Okay. So, text 33 says, Bhakti, devotional service, dissolves the subtle body of the living entity without separate effort, just as fire in the stomach digests all that we eat. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Bhakti is far higher position than mukti, because a person's endeavor to get liberation from the material engagement is automatically served in devotional service. The example is given here that the fire in the stomach can digest whatever we eat. If the digestive power is sufficient, then whatever we can eat will be digested by the fire in the stomach. Similarly, a devotee does not have to try separately to attain liberation. That very service to the supreme personality of Godhead is the process of his liberation, because to engage oneself in the service of the Lord is to liberate oneself from material entanglement. Sri Bilva Mangala Thakura explained this position very nicely. He said, if I have unflinching devotion unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, then mukti, or liberation, serves me as my maidservant. Mukti, the maidservant, is always ready to do whatever I ask. For a devotee, liberation is no problem at all. Liberation takes place without separate endeavor. Bhakti, therefore, is far better than mukti, or the impersonal position, or the impersonalist position. The impersonalist undergoes severe penances and austerities that attain austerities to attain mukti. But the bhakta, simply by engaging himself in the bhakti process, especially in chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, immediately develops control over the tongue by engaging it in chanting and accepting the remnants of foodstuff offered to the personality of God. As soon as the tongue is controlled naturally, all other senses are controlled automatically. Sense control is the perfection of the yoga principle, and one's liberation begins immediately as soon as he engages himself in the service of the Lord. It is confirmed by Kapila that bhakti, or devotional service, is gariyasi, more glorious than siddhi, or liberation. Well, that's very good to know. Bhakti, or devotional service, is gariyasi, more glorious than siddhi, or liberation. Well, that's a fact, because bhakti yoga is actually transcendental service for the Lord without any other ulterior motive other than to please the Lord. So we do have a motive, it's to please the Lord. When it's not pure devotional service, we want to please the Lord, but we want to please ourselves also. So that is not as pure as wanting only to please the Lord. That's a much more advanced state of consciousness, because there's love involved with that. When there's love and devotion, now you have pure devotional service. They go together, love and devotion. Okay, so this verse 33 again says, Bhakti devotional service dissolves the subtle body of the living entity without separate effort, just as fire in the stomach digests all that we eat. Now, why is it saying, it dissolves the subtle body of the living entity without separate effort? Well, because the subtle body is carrying all uh, remembrance of previous lifetimes. And most of those remembrances are, uh, well, can be. I'm going to say not going to say in every instance, but most of those type of remembrances are based on sense gratification. Not all, but many. So uh, when one engages in bhakti yoga or devotional service, it dissolves the subtle body, the body that is the subtle body that is carrying all these remembrances of uh, previous lives. And it's a mixed bag of good and bad things. So, therefore, it says, dissolves the subtle body of the living entity without separate effort, just as fire in the stomach digests all that we eat. So, why do we need to dissolve the subtle body? Because the subtle body is carrying everything that we've done previously. And oftentimes it's a mixed bag of good and bad things. So, if we can purify that by a pure devotional service, then we're not carrying any baggage. But if we don't, then we're carrying baggage. We're carrying uh, remembrances of a lot of things that are not Krishna conscious. Is it important to forget those things? Yes. It's better to just uh, meditate now on Krishna and be engaged in actively in devotional service to the Lord and not be, let's say, remembering all nonsense things that happened in the past. Therefore, it says bhakti is a far higher position than mukti because a person's endeavor to get liberation from the material engagement is automatically served in devotional service. The example is given here that the fire in the stomach can digest whatever we eat. If the digestive power is sufficient, then whatever we can eat will be digested by the fire in the stomach. Similarly, a devotee does not have to try separately to attain liberation. That very service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that very service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the process of his liberation, because to engage oneself in the service of the Lord is to liberate oneself from material entanglement. Sri Bill Muvangala Thakura explained this position very nicely. He said, if I have unflinching devotion unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, then mukti or liberation serves me as my maidservant. Mukti, the maidservant, is always ready to do whatever I ask. For a devotee, liberation is no problem at all. Liberation takes place without separate endeavor. Bhakti, therefore, is far better than mukti, or the impersonalist position. The impersonalists undergo severe penance and austerities to attain mukti, or liberation. But the bhakta, simply by engaging himself in the bhakti process, especially in chanting Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna, Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare, immediately develops control over the tongue by engaging it in chanting and accepting the remnants of foodstuff offered to the personality of Godhead. As soon as the tongue is controlled, naturally all other senses are controlled automatically. Sense control is the perfection of the yoga principle, and one's liberation begins immediately as soon as he engages himself in the service of the Lord. It is confirmed by Kapila Deva that bhakti or devotional service is gariyasi, more glorious than siddhi liberation. Okay, so the activity of bhakti, chanting, dancing, taking prasadam, preaching, all these things, is better than mukti, uh, the what you would call Mayavadi concept of liberation. Liberation, according to Mayavadis, is something that is static. It's not active uh, because they believe if you act, then you create karma. If you don't act, there's no karma, but that's not true. If you don't act in Krishna consciousness, there is karma. But if you act in Krishna consciousness, there's no karma. So the Mayavadis, their concept of perfection is incomplete. Therefore, they can easily fall down from their so-called position of being transcendental. Okay, so as soon as the tongue is controlled, naturally all the other senses are controlled automatically. Sense control is the perfection of the yoga principle, and one's liberation begins immediately as soon as he engages himself in the service of the Lord. It is confirmed by Kapila Deva that bhakti or devotional service is gariyasi, more glorious than siddhi liberation. Yeah, bhakti yoga is the positive activities of a pure devotee where there's no material purpose. The only purpose is to please the Lord. Therefore, one does not need to engage in silent meditation or, uh, being in a private place and avoiding the association of others. Bhakti is more enthusiastic when there are more devotees working together cooperatively to please the Lord. Whereas the Mayavadis, they seek a private place and they meditate. Most of the time, they meditate silently, and eventually they get bored doing that. So they come out and start to act in the material world again. But in Krishna consciousness, there's no boredom because it is transcendental activity pleasing the Lord, and it's full of variety. The Mayavadis, they don't have variety. Uh, they are just meditating on one thing. It could be the tip of their nose. It could be uh, something else, but it's oneness. And they're trying to achieve this oneness with the Lord. But the devotee attains oneness with the Lord by agreeing to act according to the purpose of the Lord. The purpose of the Lord is not simply attaining mukti. The purpose of the Lord is to attain love and devotion for Krishna. That is better than mukti. So we think that okay, I want to be liberated. I want to be liberated from the cycle of birth and death and so forth. And the best way to do that is to give up all activity because activity means there's going to be karma, but not Krishna conscious activity. There's no karma in Krishna conscious activity. And there is rather pure devotion with love and devotion for the Lord. Okay. Are there any questions about verse 33?
Because every time I know in the classes you say there's only two things that we need to do.
Yeah.
We chant and eat prasadam.
Hmm. And associate with devotees.
Yeah, but here exactly Prabhupada says immediately develops control over the tongue by engaging it in chanting and by accepting the remnants of food offered to the personality of Godhead. I was actually looking for where you picked up those two, because that's the, but here is where
Well, he still, okay, he says that hmm, it's a long sentence. The impersonalist undergoes severe penance and austerities to attain mukti, but the bhakta, simply by engaging himself in the bhakti process, especially in chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, immediately develops control over the tongue by engaging it in chanting and accepting the remnants of foodstuff offered to the personality of Godhead. As soon as the tongue is controlled, naturally all the other senses are controlled, and automatically, sense and automatically, excuse me, and all the other senses are controlled automatically. Sense control is the perfection of the yoga principle, and one's liberation begins immediately as soon as he engages himself in the service of the Lord. It is confirmed by Kapila Dev that bhakti or devotional service is gariyasi, more glorious than siddhi, liberation. That's a very profound statement. Why? The Mayavadis, they're seeking liberation or siddhi. The devotees are seeking devotional service, which is activity, which is active. The Mayavadi's concept of uh, liberation is inactive. They're because they think that if you act, you create karma, and if you don't act, there's no karma. But actually, by not acting, you're also uh, making karma. So there's purified activity and there's contaminated activity. And also there's contaminated non-activity. But purified activity is means that you're actually liberated. Uh, uh, Being non-active, you're still making karma because you're not doing what you're supposed to do. And just like once there were these brahmanas, and Krishna was hungry, so he asked his devotees to go and beg some prasadam from the brahmanas who were doing, different, uh, yagyas. And there's a certain moment where there's a hiatus, or they stop doing the yagya, and they distribute prasadam. So Krishna asked the cowherd boys to go and get some of that prasadam. So the Brahmanas were engaged in the service of Kamsa. So when these boys came and they begged the Brahmanas to give them some of their prasadam uh, uh, for Krishna, as soon as they heard that, they refused it. They refused to give anything because they were afraid that Kamsa would punish them. Right? But then but Krishna had told them, go and ask first from the Brahmanas to have some prasadam, and bring it back to me. But don't be surprised if they refuse it. And they did refuse. And then Krishna told them, now you go to the wives of the Brahmanas and ask prasadam for me from them. And when they went to the wives of the Brahmanas, who were not afraid of Kamsa, but why? Because they had full love and devotion for Krishna. Immediately, They gave the prasadam, but they said, we want to take it ourselves and give it to Krishna. So they wanted to associate with Krishna and give him all the prasadam that he wanted. So were the wives of the Brahmanas great yogis or great, let's say, tapasvis? No, they weren't. But they had pure love for Krishna. That puts them on a much higher level than those who are engaged in severe types of tapasya and so forth, or the great pundits that can recite so many mantras and so forth. So then, uh, when the husbands of the uh, ladies heard what their wives did, they felt sorry for themselves that they were not able to uh, have Krishna's association and service for Krishna. But still, they were afraid of Kamsa, so they continued their so-called yagyas and so forth. So here we see simple women who are not great pundits, who don't chant a lot of uh, verses and so forth, are more advanced than their husbands, who are engaged most of the day in reciting different mantras and engaging in different types of sacrifices. That's very profound because ultimately, just like one time there was a rat that fell into a what do you call it? Okay, so in a village, there's different uh, what do you call them? Well? Yeah, different wells, right? So the one well is for bathing, things like that. Another well is for drinking. So a rat fell into the well that they were using for drinking water. And in order to purify it, the Brahmanas came and for about uh, uh, let's say 12 hours, they did mantras to purify. After it was all over, all the mantras, one of the elderly brahmanas said, "Okay, now we did the mantras. Now who's going to go down and get the rat out of the of the well?" Um, so this is, practical devotional service. You just can't be uh, pie in the sky, right? Pie in the sky. You have to have practical activity also. It's not simply chanting mantras. You have to also engage in an active devotional service. You don't just solve all the problems by reciting the mantras. You have to actually have active uh, devotional service. So, um, yeah, we're on 33, right?
Yeah. What exactly is subtle body? I'm trying to understand the evolving of subtle body.
Yeah. Okay. You have a gross body made of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And your subtle body is made of mind and intelligence, like that,
and false ego.
and false ego. Okay.
So dissolving subtle body is like
Well, it's basically dissolving all the false concepts and remembrances.
all the bad elements of the mind and mind, intelligence, and false ego.
Yeah. It's much more difficult to get rid of the subtle body. Yeah. No, but we don't try and get rid of it. We purify it. There's always going to be a subtle body, but we purify it by replacing all the nonsense memories with Krishna conscious memories. Now you purified the subtle body.
Notice when we go back to Godhead, will the subtle body be there or it turns into a spiritual body?
It's dissolved.
dissolved.
Yeah.
And we have a spiritual body.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So here's something that we always sort of talk about. It says the impersonalist undergoes severe penances and austerities to attain mukti. But the bhakta, simply by engaging himself in the bhakti process, especially in chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare, immediately develops control over the tongue by engaging it in chanting and accepting the remnants of foodstuff offered to the personality of God. As soon as the tongue is controlled naturally, all other senses are controlled automatically. Sense control is the perfection of the yoga principle, and one's liberation begins immediately as soon as he engages himself in the service of the Lord. It is confirmed by Kapila Muni that bhakti or devotional service is gariyasi, more glorious than siddhi, liberation. All right, well, our takeaway as soon as the tongue is controlled, naturally, all other senses are controlled automatically. And that's why we have what's called prasadam. And prasadam also can be very, let's say, savory, be very, very nice. And Prabhupada said once when he was sick, but when some devotees came to see him, he asked them, he says, are the devotees eating nice prasadam? And they said, yes, Prabhupada. And one of them said, well, why do you ask? He said, yeah, because prasadam is the only sense gratification they get. So if that also is not good, then it's going to create a lot of problems. So he was very concerned that the devotees get very nice prasadam. Yeah. Okay, so any more questions or comments about verse 33?
One
Yeah.
question. What in the last third line or the fourth line, it says, once liberation begins, immediately as soon as he engages himself in the service of the Lord. So liberation will begin only when it's a pure devotional service, not with the material desire or little material desire and little spiritual desire. So the liberation will begin. My question is, will it begin only after no material desire, only spiritual desire? Like for a neophyte devotee, they are doing with a mixed bag. So liberation will not start for the neophyte.
Okay, well, let's see. As soon as the tongue is controlled, naturally all other senses are controlled automatically. Sense control is the perfection of the yoga principle, and one's liberation begins immediately as soon as he engages himself in the service of the Lord. All right, so it's pretty clear. We should be. What is Krishna conscious all about? Let's see. You come to the temple for the first time, and devotees are chanting Hare Krishna. They're having kirtan and so forth, and then they have prasadam. Then there's class and so forth. So they're engaging the mind and the body in spiritual activities. Okay. So the food that they're eating is not ordinary food. It's prasadam, right? The chanting they're doing is not chanting mundane songs. It's chanting the names of the Lord. So this is different than just going to what's called a hootenanny. You know what that is? A hootenanny. It's a like a party where there's like hillbilly music and things like that, right? So they are also, chanting and dancing and also maybe feasting, but it's different than chanting, dancing, and feasting in Krishna consciousness. But it might look something like Krishna consciousness because they're jumping up and down, they're dancing, they're chanting, and then eventually they'll be eating something, So it's different. The chanting and dancing and taking prasadam of a devotee is scientific. Okay, so what does that mean, scientific? It means that you're connecting to Krishna. That's the real science. The real science is to understand who God is and act in the service of God. That is real science. Because then you're on the fast track of liberation. And that is the whole goal of science, is to attain immortality. In earlier times, people were always trying to find the elixir of immortality. And they were doing all kinds of, let's say, dangerous experiments to find that elixir of immortality. But the elixir of immortality is to chant Hare Krishna, you see. So the elixir of immortality was already uh, uh, invented millions of years ago. It was chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra and taking prasadam and engaging in devotional service. That was the fast track way of being liberated. So you see how everything has become much more complicated. Why? Because they're not bona fide sadhus. They're not bona fide teachers. Because of that, they put their this so-called disciples in the wrong uh, uh, path. So you have different types of yoga. You have hatha yoga, you have hot yoga, you have cold yoga, huh?
Vikram.
Vikram yoga, all kinds of yoga. Hmm. However, the only yoga that's valid is bhakti yoga. So, but see, in order for people to make money, they come up with these different names, like Bikram yoga or hot yoga and so forth. Uh, that's why one time Prabhupada was asked, "So what do you think about this sadhu? What's his name? Very famous." Anyway, Prabhupada said
Standard.
he's not standard.
Ramakrishna
And that was huh?
Ramakrishna Paramahamsa.
No, no,
Vivekananda or Paramahamsa.
no,
Ramakrishna, right?
no, no. I don't think so. It was
Biography,
he's
autobiography.
got long hair and
Yogananda.
no,
You mentioned.
more recent than
Yeah, that's what I was
what's his name. I can see his face. I can't remember his name.
It's Prabhupada the time.
Yeah.
Or maybe even before.
Anyway, we'll think about it. I always forget the name of demons. Right. Not that he's a real bad demon, but he is. Okay. Anyway, so
Maharaj, a social gathering or informal concert that features folk singing and sometimes dancing. It can also refer to a session where folk singers and instrumentalists performed for their own enjoyment.
there you go. It's selfish activity.
The word was first recorded in 1910, but its origin is uncertain.
Yeah. So if you go to a hootenanny, you might look at it and say, well, that's what we do too. People jumping up and down, and chanting. but they're not chanting Hare Krishna, and they're jumping up and down as like monkeys. That's why Prabhupada said, that uh, the, the the chanting in Krishna consciousness is scientific because you're connecting to Krishna. They're chanting, Hootman. Who are they connecting to? Their own concoctions. Uh, it looks like the same thing, people jumping up and down and chanting, right? But it's not connecting to Krishna. It's connected to their own, uh, let's say, own uh, false ego. you know. Okay.
Essentially, any philosophy, if their parampara is broken, deviation, including Mayavad, if the parampara is broken from Krishna,
What is the point you're making?
because all these offshoots, even based on Vedic knowledge, but then they come up with their own philosophies, including Mayavad,
Mhm.
because they don't accept Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead, or they don't start from Krishna as the original Jagat Guru. So they end up creating offshoots because they're all mental speculations.
Okay.
I'm just saying, like, no, that way we can essentially get rid of all that are
Not bona fide.
not bona fide.
Bona fide means you are in a disciplic, bona fide spiritual uh, uh,
From
parampara.
all the way to Krishna.
Yes, beginning from Krishna and to the present. Uh, so we're not chanting Hallelujah. We're chanting Hare Krishna. There are other people they chant Hallelujah, and the dancing is also scientific. It's meant to please Krishna. It's not just jumping up and down like a monkey, right? So we do the Prabhupada two-step, right? So everything is scientific in Krishna consciousness, and it's not something that is concocted. Okay, so let me take away a spot from this purport. As soon as the tongue is controlled, naturally all other senses are controlled automatically. Sense control is the perfection of the yoga principle. And one's liberation begins immediately as soon as he engages himself in the service of the Lord. It is confirmed by Kapila Deva that bhakti or devotional service is Gariyasi, more glorious than siddhi, liberation. Yeah, because you can fall down from liberation. Uh, one little mistake and you'll fall down. But if you're always engaged in devotional service, in good association, you probably will never fall down. Anyone can fall down at any time. But if you're always engaged in devotional service in the company of genuine devotees, very good chance that you'll never fall down. These fall downs occur when we are basically drinking water underwater on a fast day. In other words, there's a dark side to a devotee, and they just cannot give that up. So it looks ostensibly that he's bona fide, but he has a secretive life also that he's trying to hide. So that doesn't work. That doesn't last very long. Okay. Any other comments? Any questions from our listeners? If not, then we'll continue on text 34. Text 34 says, a pure devotee who is attached to the activities of devotional service and who always engages in the service of my lotus feet. Now, this is Krishna that's speaking. So my lotus feet is Krishna's lotus feet. Never desires to become one with me, with Krishna. Such a devotee who is unflinchingly engaged always glorifies my pastimes and activities. Okay, so you can tell who a person is by the way they talk. If they talk nonsense, you know they're nonsense. If they talk always about Krishna and Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's this, Krishna's that, they're devotees because they've taken the time and trouble to learn what are Krishna's pastimes, what are all things that relate to Krishna consciousness, and that requires knowledge. So they've taken the time to assimilate the knowledge of Krishna consciousness, and they're always talking about it. And if you can't remember things, then you just read them, just as we're doing now. That's why Prabhupada went to all the trouble to write these wonderful books. Not only the Bhagavad Gita, but the entire, or almost the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. That means that we have a lifetime of study. In other words, if you want to read all of Prabhupada's books, it would be a lifetime endeavor. Right? Now, just because you read them doesn't mean you understand them. So that means that it could take many lifetimes to understand them. Right? So you can't say that, oh, well, Prabhupada didn't give us everything. There are some people that say that. Well, he only gave us the very baseline things. He didn't give all the higher realizations of the different rasas with Krishna. That's not true. That's absolutely not true. But he did not begin by giving all those very intimate pastimes of the Lord's. Okay? Otherwise, he would be training sahajas. That's what the sahajas are. They go right to the topmost pastimes of the Lord. And basically, because they don't go in the proper process or proper, let's say, sequence, they make many mistakes and they fall down. I knew this one devotee. He's a PhD and very intelligent, very, very intelligent. And he was always being like a guru and a confidant of women beside his own wife. And he fell down. Yeah. Yeah. He fell down with several different women. He was giving them personal association. Yeah. He's still a devotee now. Yeah. But and then then there was these other devotees who were like they were what do you call that? Doing palm reading, right? Palmistry, yeah. So in order to do that, they have to hold the hand of a woman or a man. But they were most of the people who are coming to him were women. So they was holding their hands all the time. So eventually he fell down. So we can't cheat. Uh, a devotee is someone who strictly follows the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness. So just because you're palmless doesn't mean you have the right to hold women's hands. And, to go through a whole seance with making a reading of all the lines in the hand, it could take, maybe a half an hour or maybe an hour, right? So that's not a very good thing to hold the hands of a woman. And that means you're close to the woman also. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of strange things that were happening in Krishna consciousness before. Hopefully it stopped. Okay, any other questions? All right, then we'll go to text 34, right? A pure devotee who is attached to the activities of devotional service and who always engages in the service of my lotus feet, this is Krishna speaking, never desires to become one with me. Such a devotee who is unflinchingly engaged always glorifies my pastimes and activities. So, if you associate with Mayavadis, and I hope you don't, they think that someone who becomes, let's say, very advanced becomes Narayana. And when they talk to each other, they say, "Are you Narayana?" Yes. Okay. I'm Narayana also, And so there's a lot of Narayanas running around amongst the speculators. So, but here it says, uh, that a pure devotee who is attached to the activities of devotional service and who always engages in the service of my lotus feet never desires to become one with me. So the Mayavadis, they consider, one who seems to be more advanced, they consider that he is Narayana, and they will address someone as Narayana. Such a devotee who is unflinchingly engaged always glorifies my pastimes and activities. Yeah, so there are a lot of fake gurus. They don't really talk. Well, they might in the beginning talk about Krishna, but in the end, it's all about what they have done, not what Krishna has done. So uh, when Satguru says, I don't read Shastras, well, right there, uh, he makes Shastra uh, not consequential in the life of a devotee. Right? So if it means that he doesn't read Shastra, then you have to believe whatever he says. And he might say things that are complete nonsense. You have no way at that point to know if what he's saying is bona fide or not bona fide because he rejected Shastras. And that's a very, very clever strategy. If he says, I don't read any Shastras, right now, as soon as he says that, then it annihilates any way of checking to see if what he's saying is bona fide or not bona fide, because he says, I don't read Shastras. That means the disciple's not going to read Shastras. He's just going to believe whatever he says. There's no triangle of verification. Yes. Triangle of verification is statements uh, made by Krishna and statements made by the acharyas and statements made by the gurus. Yeah, you have to close the triangle of verification.
And there is no Shastra means how can there be? If he doesn't read Shastra.
Yeah, that means that you have to believe whatever his speculations are. Yeah. It's very clever, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So they'll end up saying, "Oh yeah, our Gurudev is Krishna. You know, he's the present avatar, just like what they were saying about that nonsense uh, Nityananda. Yeah, he shouldn't even use that name. Lord Nityananda is bona fide. His Nityananda is not bona fide, and he's still running away from the police, living on an island off the coast of Ecuador. Yeah, you have to go onto that island to associate with him. Okay, so we have anybody else have questions or comments?
Maharaj, some devotee is mentioning, were you referring to with the long hair is Maharishi Mahesh Yogi?
Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah. He sometimes says nice things about Prabhupada uh, and ISKCON.
Was he in America? Okay.
Mahesh Yogi.
Mahesh Yogi.
He has long hair.
He has very long hair.
He's a nice man. You know, he's not mean. You know, it's a nice man. And he does speak sometimes about Krishna consciousness and Prabhupada.
So what was the concern here? He was a Mayavadi or?
He's a uh, mishmash. He mixes things up. You know, so he's all things at one time. That means he's nothing. And either you are or you aren't. If you are a pure devotee, then you don't act like you are like God, right? And you don't let your disciples say that you are God. But if you uh, let your disciples say you're God, you don't stop it, then that means that you're nonsense. Right? But Mahesh Yogi is relatively a nice person, right? Uh, there was a time where he was engaged with some pretty girls, uh, but I think he stopped that, and he's still present, right? Is he still alive?
In 2008, he died. 2008.
Really?
Netherlands.
That's because he was messing around with girls. Yeah, Mahesh Yogi. 2008. I didn't even realize. My God, that's a long time ago. Yeah. Well, maybe it was better that he died. All these yogis, the yogis are not supposed to engage in illicit activities. But it goes to their head because they have so many followers. You know, the gurupis. We call them gurupis.
It seems he lived around 90 age.
He was 90 years old. Yeah.
90s. They don't have exact start year, but approximately 90 plus somewhere.
Okay, we had a long life. Who is this guru?
Swami Brahmananda Saraswati.
Uh-huh. That's the guru of what's his name?
Mahesh Yogi.
Mahesh Yogi. Who was the guru? I mean, who was his guru? What was his sampradaya?
This is the Shankaracharya.
Ah, Sankaracharya. Okay. Mayavad philosophy.
Maharaj ChatGPT saying Srila Prabhupada, the founder of International Society for Krishna Consciousness, was critical of Maharshi Mahesh Yogi and his teachings, particularly the Transcendental Meditation movement. Prabhupada believed that Mahesh Yogi's approach was focused on material benefits rather than spiritual advancement. He often pointed out that true spiritual practices should aim at self realization and devotion to God, particularly Krishna, rather than focusing on achieving mental peace, stress relief, or worldly success.
Was it Mahesh Yogi that was teaching people how to levitate? Yeah.
His movement is called Transcendental Meditation Movement.
Okay. Did he teach levitation?
Prabhupada felt that the commercialization of meditation and spirituality, as seen in the Transcendental Meditation Movement, diluted the essence of Vedic wisdom. He emphasized that such methods, which promise material benefits without a focus on devotion to God, were incomplete and could mislead people from the true purpose of spiritual life.
But look up if he was teaching levitation. I think it was him.
What is limitation?
And you can fly through the air. They never got higher than 4 inches. Yeah, his devotees, they were jumping up, trying to jump up like this in the lotus position, but they never got more than 4 inches or 6 inches high.
Yeah. Yogic flying.
Here you are. Are there pictures of it?
It is said in Reddit that Mahesh Yogi Transcendental Meditation Movement taught yogic flying.
Yeah. All they were doing just like going like this. Like, you go up 3 inches, 4 inches. It's a very silly nonsense thing.
Yeah, yogic prime.
Huh?
Yeah, they mentioned yogic prime. I think his focus has been more on meditation.
Mm.
There is a video with him and Larry King.
Who?
Larry King,
Who is that?
CNN reporter.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yeah.
And he's asking what is yogic flying, and Maharshi Rishi is explaining it.
Oh, really? Can we hear it?
What is flying? Creating intelligence in the self-referent consciousness that will materialize the intention. Whatever the intention, materialize the intention. And what is this thing? This is the same creative intelligence from natural law that makes a huge galactic universe float in the empty space. Every galaxy, huge waves of galaxies, they're all flying in empty spaces. What is that? The creative intelligence at the level of pure intelligence, when pure intelligence in itself referred unified state assumes the role of fluctuations of waves, like that, like that, like that. So the same law of nature is captured in the transcendental field of consciousness. And then with the thought that I should be in the air, well, the body lifts up, body lifts up.
Well, he flew away. He's not here anymore.
People are flying, 4-5 million people are flying in their private values. Now they want to have bigger groups. And bigger groups have been found to create that worldwide influence. They influence the whole world consciousness towards positivity, towards harmony, towards higher values of intelligence. That is why we have a proof. We have enough proof in the Vedic literature, and we have enough proof from the modern science that our teaching has that influence which will create a, a better world, means a positive world, a harmonious world. That is why we want to have a global administration of natural law. So we will not disturb the existing administration by man-made laws in any country. We are creating our own government, which is utilizing natural law, which we have from modern science and which we have for effective Vedic science. So we have enough ammunition to win the race. How do we learn more about this?
Blah, blah, blah.
It's of centers for teaching transcendental meditation everywhere. You believe in God. I believe in God, and I believe in the study of God vested in King. And I'm very happy to have your name as King. Is the King. I want to establish a government in every country that will support life in the country. This drama of 4 years, 5 years, change the government, is only useful to the foreign power. You see, democracy, I used to say, to the democracy, because it's not a stable government. It's only useful for foreign powers. It's a bad thing for any nation to change the Imagine comes from Korea, now he is the president, and then he goes to jail tomorrow, they get the jail back. Such eradication between the family statements must create a very chaotic population in every country, and that is the situation in the world. The whole field of education is very inadequate, it doesn't make the human physiology totally function. The medicine, the field of medicine is very poisonous. It's full of inadequacies and full of those what we call the negative things. The side effects of modern medicine. No, but you have in my room, I have in my room the whole height of a floor full of about 8 or 10,000 bad articles on modern medicine. Modern medicine continues. Those who are producing medicine, they are only producing because they get money. It doesn't matter if people die or suffer from any more diseases. Our hearing is subject to so much of corruption. All this is because life is not up to the point in the younger age. Education is very, very inadequate. The whole, the whole drama of science is a big fraud everywhere. Hiroshima was created in the name of science. Peace cannot be created in the name of science. No, Hiroshima can be created. Afghanistan can be created. Now, can be created. This is science. The whole thing is wrong. The whole thing is simple. And those who will get into that, come to that realization. Killing is sin. Who said the sin? It is sin. It is sin will go to the great American
Mahishu.
Hmm?
Mahishu.
Maharshi Mahesh.
Not many people know in India. I don't know. I've never heard of it. You know?
Oh, he was famous at one time.
Oh,
He was he was at one time the guru of the Beatles.
yeah.
You see, like he was just like going left and right, up and down, what he was saying.
It's a little confusing.
Yeah, it is confusing. What is not confusing is chant Hare Krishna and be happy. That's pretty straightforward. You don't have to say so many things.
That's the beauty of Krishna consciousness. Very simple.
Very, very, very simple.
He had explained what is this flying thing, but nothing is coming out of it.
You read something?
It's very confusing.
It's confusing. Like he has used so many words, but
Yeah.
there's no.
No, have you? You can look up. There's videos of his disciples, so-called flying, and they don't get more. They don't fly more than 2 or 3 inches because they go like that, right? Then they come back down again. He was teaching, how to fly through the air. All silly stuff, all nonsense.
Can you check? 740.
What?
Searching on.
Yeah. You found something?
Mediation. First, the intelligence of nature.
Seriously.
What's that?
Yes, what you said, Maharaj.
Oh, they're trying to fly. Is that what you say?
Even Nikya on the label.
Together, intensely stimulate the
Yeah,
unity
that's it.
at the basis of all diversity through their blissful
It's like monkeys or kangaroos. Kangaroos. Huh?
Looking right now.
Who is?
We jump, we don't need to.
integrated.
Yeah. It's not flying through the air.
Jump.
Yeah.
Very strange.
He was narrating live.
It's how stupid people are. They think, they are becoming, they're flying through the air. They don't even get, like 3 or 4 inches, maybe 6 inches. And it only lasts for about 5 seconds. So you said that picture, it just shows you how crazy people are.
They're funny, Maharaj. They are believing it.
Yeah.
It's like probably one of the cheap techniques to attack the people.
But it is working.
Yeah.
Okay. Good thing we following Prabhupada. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.